Now, running poles have become pretty popular over the last 5 or 6 years, but when I first started using them around sort of 10, 12 years ago, I used to get some funny looks when I was out on the trails with these, especially when I was racing in the UK. That was back in the day when people used to call them cheat sticks, but runners soon realised that these really can help you out, whether you're running a rolling, hilly race in the UK, or you're racing overseas in the big mountains, or you're just knackered at the end of a long ultra. And it just so happens that Harrier have just launched their latest version of their new Carbon Z poles, and we have just got a pair at the channel. So let's dive into the video. We're going to tell you all about the new updates to the new poles, and then we're going to be hitting the trails of Cornwall and testing them out. Hello again everyone, hope you are all fit and well out there in the world of YouTube. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run for Adventure, your friendly, informative, running related YouTube channel. Now just before we dive into today's video, I would love to hear from you guys. So are you currently using running poles? If so, how do you find them? Do you get on with them? Do you find them helpful? Or are you a bit of a purist when it comes to your trail running and trail racing and you tend not to want to use them? Well, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, over the years of running and racing distance, I've used lots of different poles from lots of different brands, including Salomon, Lecky, and Mountain King, to name a few. But I would say my poles of choice for the last 2.5 years have actually been the original Helvellyn Pro carbon poles from Harrier. I've used them for hundreds and hundreds of miles, whether it be training or racing in the UK, or maybe in the mountains of Chamonix, Switzerland and Italy. I've used them in some tough challenging races, including the TDS at UTMB, and then more recently we took them along to a very different environment where myself and Liga were attempting to run 220 kilometers through the Wadi Rum desert when we took on the challenging Ultra X Jordan. I've got to say it, they've been brilliant. They've never let me down and they are still going strong. And I'd actually have to say they're probably the best running poles I've ever used. So you can see it's been a very positive experience for me when it comes to my Harrier poles, but I am still excited about the new updates to the latest version. Apparently they're stronger, lighter, sleeker. They come in a couple of exciting colorways and they're still very reasonably priced at £104.99, which I actually think is great value, especially when you compare them to some of the other carbon running poles on the market from the bigger manufacturers. So first up, all the new Helvellyn Pro carbon poles come with their own little protective carry bag, which I personally think is a really nice touch. And this is one of the things that I've always liked about the Harrier brand, is they're always there to give out lots of helpful tips and advice. So you also get with your poles a little quick startup guide, which is very, very helpful, especially if it's your first time using running poles. There's lots of handy tips and advice from, making sure that you've got the correct height poles, which really is important, how to use the wrist straps correctly. They've even got sort of pictures of the ideal running pole form. And it doesn't stop there, because there's also a QR code in this leaflet. If you scan it, it's going to take you to a YouTube video that Harrier have put together where there's even more information about how to use your poles correctly. And the right form, the right technique really is important, and it does make a big difference. So let's grab the poles out of their bag and take a look. So I actually got my pair in this rather fetching turquoise and yellow colorway, which I think looks super cool. And the first thing I'm noticing is definitely feel a lot lighter, but also a lot sleeker in hand. This has been done by obviously reducing the overall weight, and they've reduced the diameter of the pole, and you really can notice the difference when it comes to weight compared to the previous version. Also, Harrier have redesigned the little mud basket on the bottom, so it is a lot more compact now, and that should really help when it comes to stowing the poles away, especially if you're using a pole quiver on your running vest. The Helvellyn Pro carbon poles also come with a carbide spike tip, very similar to what we got on the original versions there, and a pair of these handy sort of rubber bungs that you can push over that spike if you're going to be using your poles on sort of firmer, more compacted terrain. Moving up to the ergonomically designed handle, and this is something that I really liked in the original version. These are super, super comfy, even if you've got your hands on them for long periods of time, and That hadn't always been the case with some of the poles I'd used previously, and on longer races I did end up with blisters a couple of times on the palm of my hand. Didn't have them with my Harrier ones, super comfy. I used them in races where I was literally grabbing hold of these handles for 24 hours plus and I never had an issue. However, it does look like they've been slightly slimmed down this time, so a bit sleeker, but they still feel very comfortable in hand. I like the contours and the texture of the material. I also think it's great that the handle extends down the pole, because it can be handy when you're working your way up a very steep climb sometimes to hold the pole a little bit lower down. And then we've got the adjustable wrist strap. Looks very similar to the one on the previous version. So we've got this nice soft toweling lining inside that strap. So makes it very, very comfortable when you've got it wrapped around your wrist. Harrier also claim that they've redesigned the deployment system, and this should make it a lot easier to break the poles down and stow them away. And I've got to be honest, I never had any issues with the original poles, but this is quite a hard thing to test inside. So I think the best thing we can do is go off, get our running kit on, jump in the adventure bus, and we're going to head up to the North Cliffs of Cornwall, in particular to an area that we call the Bitches down here. Now, this is a great area to go and train if you're doing a hilly race, or even better, a mountain race, because there's 5 or 6 very steep technical valleys to drop down into and then climb out of. And I actually think that'll be the perfect testing ground for these new poles. So I'm gonna go and get ready, and we'll see you guys out on the trails. Okay, so we've made it up to Bassett's car park. I've got the new Harrier Carbon Helvellyn poles with me, and the dips are that way. I say we because League is actually behind the camera, and she's going to be joining us today with her new poles as well. So let's get out into the dips and let's test them out. Okay, so we've made it up 2 of the dips so far. First thing I'm noticing about the poles is obviously the weight reduction. They definitely feel lighter in hand, although they were super light anyway. But the other thing, they do feel a bit stiffer, a bit more rigid, now that Harrier have gone for that better quality carbon, and really does feel like I'm getting more power through the pole. So it's actually Liga's first proper run since we came back from the deserts of Jordan. How are you feeling? How are the legs?
Yeah, they're all right actually.
Bit of a baptism of fire straight into the dips.
Okay.
But Liga actually used the original Harrier Helvellyn carbon poles when we were out in Chamonix, all the build up to the CCC, and you pretty much had them in your hands for the whole 26 hours of the race. And you really,
definitely all the way.
Yeah, they definitely came in handy during a race of 100 kilometers with 6,100 meters of elevation. But
yeah.
How are the new variants feeling?
Like what you said earlier, I'm noticing the same things. I like it that it's lighter as well. Although I was really happy with the other ones, but these are definitely better. Yeah, we both really got on with the original poles, and I thought, again, one of the best poles I've ever used compared to all the others, but maybe they do feel a little bit better. We better crack on, let's get a few more dips done. It's flat here, we better run. We're also both trying out some of Harrier's socks. Now, I didn't even realise that Harrier Trail made socks, but I've got a pair on, League has got a pair on. They are a little bit short for my liking. I tend to wear a crew sock, but really nice fabrics, very soft against the feet, good padding in the heel and toe. Feel pretty good. And you can buy twin packs, so I think they're very reasonably priced. So maybe a good idea for, a stocking filler at Christmas for the runner in your life. But yeah, socks feel good. Right, we are all done. Just a nice steady run today. Liga's first run back, so we want to break her in nice and gradually, get her back into her running. Did a lot of running in a very short space of time. All the training in Chamonix, then obviously the CCC, Norway, and then 5 days in the deserts of Jordan at Ultra X Jordan. So she definitely needed a rest, but she's back on the trails. It's good to have you back. But a good test for the new Harrier poles as well, down in the dips, and just putting them away here. They feel a little bit better engineered, a little bit more precise when you lock them down, and I think it is an upgrade on the already good Harrier Carbon Helvellyn poles. But let's get these stowed away in the van, we'll get home, and then we'll wrap this video up with a quick conclusion.
Well, that was really nice being back out on the trails with Liga, and it was also great to test out the latest version of Harrier's Helvellyn Pro carbon poles. Now, stay tuned till the end of the video because the kind folk from Harrier have actually given us a pair of these to give away to one lucky viewer. So I'll tell you more about that a bit later on, but I do feel the latest version is a step up from the previous poles that I really got on well with. I used them for hundreds and hundreds of mileage out on the trails and they are still going strong. But it was nice to have a sort of more stripped back compact version, and whenever I'm doing a long race, especially in the mountains, I tend to carry my poles in a pole quiver attached to my race vest. And you know, the previous version being a bit bulkier, sometimes it could be quite tricky to get them out of my quiver. They'd end up getting a bit tangled, a bit caught, and then it would be quite awkward. So I think the fact that the poles have been stripped down, we've got those smaller mud baskets on the end of the poles, and the handle grips are a bit more compact, should really help with that. I think this new upgraded carbon definitely made a difference when it came to putting sort of power through the poles, especially when I was pushing up some of those steep climbs out of the dips there. There was less flex, more rigidity, and that really helped with forward momentum. And then lastly, we've got to talk about the re-engineered deployment system. Super quick, super easy to set the poles up if you are going to be taking on another climb to a summit, or to break the poles down and stow them away so you can run hard down a descent. Now, the model of pole that we were testing out today is Harrier's Helvellyn Pro Carbon Z pole. So this is actually a fixed length pole, so you have to make sure you get the right length for your height. Now, I'm 6'1" and I'm using a 125 centimeter pole. The height was perfect, and I've always used a fixed length pole whenever I'm out on the trails. They seem to work best for me, but Harrier do have some other options within their pole range. So they also do a standard Helvellyn carbon pole, and they are a fully adjustable pole, so they're available in one size, and then you've got that adjustment so you can set them up for your specific height. Or if you're on a slightly tighter budget, they also offer the more affordable Capbell aluminium Z poles. So you have a pro version that retails for $64.99, or you've got the very reasonable non-pro version at $59.99. Now that is great value. Obviously the aluminium poles are going to be slightly heavier, but to be fair, they're still pretty lightweight, and they're not going to be as rigid and as stiff as the carbon equivalents. But if you are in the market for your first ever pair of running poles, or you're looking to upgrade your existing set, then I would definitely recommend going along to the Harrier website and checking out their pole range. I personally think they're really well made, well manufactured products at a very affordable price point, and I actually think their Helvellyn Pro carbon poles are probably the best item of kit that they make, and they definitely hold up to some of the more expensive and bigger running pole brands. I also really like the fact that Harrier have so much great free advice on their website as far as getting the most out of your running poles. I think that's just a nice touch and an added bonus, and there's really not many trail brands doing that out there these days, so a big kudos to Harrier. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link to their website in the description below in case you want to check out their pole lineup or any of their other great trail running equipment. Okay, so it is giveaway time, folks. So how do you get your hands on a pair of the new Helvellyn Pro Carbon Z poles from Harrier? Well, it's pretty straightforward. First of all, you need to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Then you need to pop along to Instagram and follow the Run for Adventure page and the Harrier trail running page. And then under this picture in our Instagram feed, you need to tag in 2 of your running buddies, and then you're entered. We're going to run the competition for 2 weeks, and then we'll be picking out one lucky winner winner at random. So definitely get in the mix, guys, and you could be walking away with your very own shiny new pair of running poles. And on that note, it brings today's video to an end. Really hope you enjoyed it, guys, and if you are thinking about purchasing your first pair of trail running poles, then I hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. It really is a big help to the channel. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that bell icon, because then you'll be notified when we upload any new exciting content and you're not going to miss any of our future videos. Big shout out to Harrier for giving us a set of poles to give away to you guys. Thanks for watching. It's really appreciated. We'll be back here very soon, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. And it just so happens that Carbon, just so happens that Harrier, but my running poles of choice for, say, the last 2.5 years have actually been the original Helvellyn Pro carbon poles from Harrier. I've used them for hundreds.